Hey friend, welcome back to the Lifestyle School podcast. I am Hope, your host, and today we are diving into something that could completely shift the way that you think about your health journey. It's a concept from psychology called cognitive behavioral therapy, also referred to as CBT. And before you think, pause, oh, this is for people in counseling or in therapy. That's not me. I don't need that. I'm not into that. I want you to just like pause and hang with me for a minute. Because here is the truth. Cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the most practical, powerful tools that you can use to change your lifestyle, to help you heal your metabolism, and finally make the changes that you've been trying to make stick actually happen. And if you've ever said to yourself, I know what I should be doing, but I just can't seem to make myself do it, ladies and gentlemen, this episode is for you. Before we get into it, though, as always, a disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor, and this is not medical advice. Everything you hear on this podcast is for educational purposes only. Always make sure to talk with your qualified healthcare practitioner before making any huge dietary or lifestyle changes for your safety and for my liability purposes. So, with that, guys, I'm really, really passionate about this topic, and I try to find this balance on this podcast of how often do I talk about the mental side of lifestyle change, and how often do I talk about like the very educational science, practical lifestyle tips side of things as well, because there has to be a balance. I've been coaching people for a decade now, and you got to have both, is what I have found. I actually, I have a number of certifications. I am a certified personal trainer. I'm a certified personal health coach. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist, and I'm actually also a certified behavioral change specialist. And the reason why I decided to pursue that certification is because I wanted to learn more about cognitive behavioral therapy, and I wanted to be better equipped to help my patients that I'm working with actually implement the changes that we talk about, right? Because I mean, I have been here, every single one of my clients have been here. We know, for the most part, a lot of us, we know things that we should be doing. Maybe we don't have it all figured out, and that's sometimes why you need to work with a coach. But there's typically things that we know we should be doing, but we just can't seem to make ourselves do them. And that is incredibly frustrating. And so we have to, think about this and say, okay, what do I do about it? And so today, that is the topic that I want to tackle in this podcast, and hopefully you find it very useful. And so with that, guys, let's get into it. So most of us, we don't fail because we don't have the right information. I would say sometimes we do. I mean, if you're still on that calorie counting train, my friend, and if you think if I just eat, 1,300 calories or 200 calories less than I'm burning, I'm going to lose weight. I hate to inform you, but after a very long time of doing this and having a lot of struggles myself, for the majority of people, that in and of itself, by itself, is not going to work long term. You will lose weight for a short period of time, but alas, your metabolism is flexible and it's going to downregulate because your body's like, oh, we're not consuming that much. Famine is upon us, and you're going to start downregulating your metabolism, and you're going to plateau. Womp womp. Happens to every single person. So if you're on that train, check out some of my previous podcasts, and we can talk about why I don't think this is the right topic. But that's not the subject at hand today, Hope. So let's get back to the main thing. That most of us do have a lot of really good information, right? And if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully you already know the basics of real food, movement, quality sleep, managing your stress, fasting is a tool, and meal timing. And hopefully education for you at this point. We're 37 episodes into this podcast. Can I get like a whoop whoop? It's honestly very exciting for me. I was talking to someone who was like, wow, I can't believe I started this podcast at the beginning of 2025 in January, I believe. and I'm 37 episodes in, and I've been doing one once a week. It's been a labor of love, but I've actually really loved it. So hopefully education, if you've been following the podcast for a while, if you've listened to the episodes, isn't the problem. The problem may be that implementation, right? The problem is the mental loops we get stuck in, the automatic thoughts that play into the background, shaping our decisions without us even noticing. So, you might find yourself thinking, oh, I already blew it today. I might as well start again on Monday. And it's only like, Friday. Maybe it's Saturday. So then Sunday is an off day. The rest of the Sunday is an off day. And then Monday you get back to it, right? Or it might be, I am just too tired to work out. That's been me recently in pregnancy. It won't make a difference anyway. Maybe it's, I deserve this treat after the day I've had. I also fall prey to that one. Do any of these sound familiar to you? I'm sure if you just took a minute to think, you could come up with one of these on your own. Those thoughts actually drive your feelings, and your feelings drive your behaviors, and your behaviors create your results. So this is truly the heart of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's our thoughts change our feelings, which then impact our behaviors, which then change our results. And so when you start at the top of the chain reaction with your thoughts, you truly can change your life. And more specifically for us, you can change your health outcomes, your weight, your metabolic health, and maybe, the trajectory of your family's life and health because, maybe you're a mom listening to this or a dad listening to this and you're like, you know what? We're gonna change things. My family, we didn't eat well growing up. We didn't do this, and this. We had a lot of health issues, but I want something different for my family. And this can really change your life, but it really, truly all starts in our minds, in the unheard thoughts that kind of rule our days. So, step one in this process is always awareness. We have to catch the loop, right? The first step is awareness. And honestly, this is the hardest part because most of us live on autopilot. I talk about this quite frequently because it's so true. We don't even notice the thought that we've had before we've acted on it. And then all of a sudden you're like, why am I eating this cookie? Like, how did I get here? Right? Picture this. It's 9 p.m. You're tired. The kids are finally asleep. Full disclosure, I just put my kids to bed and now I'm recording this. So this tracks. And you find yourself in the pantry with a bag of chips. By the time you catch it, you've already eaten half the bag. The behavior feels automatic, but it wasn't. There was a thought right before it. And maybe it was, I deserve something for me, or I can't relax without a snack, or man, those kids are driving me a little crazy. I love them, but thank goodness they're in bed and I need to unwind. I need to blow off some steam. And the best way to do that is with, a nice little treat and maybe a show or whatever. I think this is the loop that many of us find ourselves in. And I want you to just take a moment and think about the last couple days. Has there been a moment like that in your life? Where did it start? Right? In lifestyle school, I often encourage my clients to keep a simple thought log, especially if this is an issue for them. Not necessarily a food log. Those can, be helpful at times, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan of counting every morsel of food that goes into your mouth because I just don't think, well, one, it's a really time consuming habit and compliance for 99% of my clients is horrible. They don't do it very well. And so it's actually not very helpful. And it's just like not something most people can do long term. So I'd rather do other strategies that I think are more effective. But I think a thought log is super, super helpful. And what you do is you record what you were thinking and feeling before the behavior happened. So essentially, you find yourself in your cupboard with your hand in the cookie bag and the chip bag, whatever that looks like for you, whether you're a salty or sweet person. And then you work your way backwards. Why did I think that I would feel good doing this? Why did I want to do this? Where did it all start? And because awareness of the fact that this is happening is like turning on a light in a dark room. You can't change what you can't see, right? So it all starts with this awareness of like, oh, I did this behavior that isn't in line with my long-term health goals. But you have to be aware that, oh, this all started with a thought, and you have to start figuring out where, like, what was this thought? Where did this thought originate? And that is like the key to this process of starting to change truly for the long term, for your lifestyle. Step two is once you've caught the thought, you have to be curious. And this is something that we talk about all the time in life school. I want you to be the most curious, annoying person with yourself and even with others in other situations, because I truly believe curiosity is kind of a lost art form in some ways. We're so automated into our phones. We're always listening to stuff. We're not paying attention. We have to get curious about ourselves. Like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I think that? Why do I feel this way? Because let's go back to the example of, I can't relax without a snack. The question that I think you should ask yourself is that really true? Really, is it? And the truth is, of course not, right? There are dozens of ways to relax that don't involve spiking your insulin or your blood sugar or waking up tomorrow feeling bloated and tired and sick and kind of frustrated with yourself, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can relax. Or maybe your thought is, I will never lose weight, so what is even the point, right? You've probably been there. I've definitely been there. I know this one really cuts deep for many people, but the question is it true? Like, do you believe that you will never lose weight? So what's the point? And maybe you do. And if you're in this place, I just want to say here, like, I am so sorry. I do believe the like nutrition, food science, diet culture, fitness bros, influencers on the internet have really just put a lot of blame on people for not getting results when I'm just going to be really frank and blunt, but I don't think it's people's faults for being overweight. I don't think it's a willpower issue. Like, have you ever met someone who really wants to be overweight and like not able to move and not feel good? No one chooses that. But we have been given no information in some cases. And then when we do get information, it's like wrong information that's unhelpful. And then when you count the calories, you feel like you're starving yourself, you're working out all the time and nothing's happening. Your coach says, well, were you really doing what I asked you to do? Were you really working that hard? The blame gets put back on you for, oh, well, you must not be doing what I asked because you're not getting the results that I expected you to with cutting, 250 calories out of your diet or whatnot. And that's super frustrating. And so I just want to say, I see you. I acknowledge that. And I mean, honestly, up until 2019, I did not understand the role of hormones in weight loss. Like, I was telling clients, full transparency, to cut 250 calories out of their diet because that would result like one pound of fat is about 3,500 calories. So if we cut your calories by 250 calories a day, that should result in about 1 pound of weight loss a week, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, it just didn't work in the long term for most people. What has worked is changing your hormones so that your body the signals of your body are saying it's safe to release body fat and to utilize as energy, or like we can actually access that because our insulin isn't so high blocking the pathway of fat burning, right? So I want to say, if you feel like I will never lose weight, so what's the point? Honestly, for some people, I think that's like a really valid feeling, but I want you to know that it doesn't have to be. And I've worked with so many people who have felt that way, and we've gotten amazing results when we start working with their body instead of against it. And so I just want to remind you, you're not broken. Like, your body wants to be healthy. It wants to lose weight. We just have to give it the right tools and the right environment to do that. Okay. Your body is capable of healing. I've seen clients in their 40s, 50s, 60s completely transform their metabolic health once they started addressing the root causes. So, the whole point of step two here, after realizing that there's a problem and having awareness of these thoughts, is we have to challenge those thoughts. And challenging the thoughts doesn't mean beating yourself up. It doesn't mean pausing and asking, it does mean pausing and asking, is this accurate? Is this helpful? Is there another way to look at this? And again, just becoming really curious and questioning ourselves and these thoughts that we are becoming aware of is, are they actually true? And, sometimes I think, you know, even if you truly feel like you're never going to lose weight, so what's the point? What good does it do? Even if you feel like that's true, even if you feel like that's true, what good is it doing you to like accept that, right? Like another example of this is I have been dealing with like chronic back pain for about 4 years since I had my last baby. Honestly, it was something that I was a little concerned about getting pregnant again. And like, how is my back going to deal with this? Because quite frankly, like I can't really bend forward in like a forward plane without issues. Like sometimes my back will just give out and I'll like kind of fall forward. It's extremely painful. It's really weird. I've done so much physical therapy, MRI, chiropractic care, compression therapy, like you name it, I've probably tried it. And so I kind of feel like, my back's never going to feel better. What's the point? But that's not like a helpful thought, right? I can't lift weights the way that I used to, the way that I love. And honestly, it's been a huge grieving process of like letting go of the barbell and not doing deadlifts, not doing barbell squats anymore. Like honestly, I can't even really do free weight squats. I can do like a leg press machine. I can do squats with like a TRX to support my back, and like even lunging can be really hard. So I mean, I'm in a very this feels very vulnerable to share, and I don't know why, but so I've been having to totally rethink like the way I move, and I think I had to go through this process of identifying my thoughts of my back is always going to hurt. I'm never going to be able to work out the way that I want to anymore. What's the point of working out? In full transparency. And I finally came to this like conclusion of like this thought isn't serving me. It's not in line with what I want for my life, even though it feels like it's true. Like, what's the point of believing that, right? Because it doesn't lead to anything that I want. And so, it's been a process, but I have decided that even though it feels like that's true, I'm going to choose to believe something else, that my back is eventually, one day I'm going to wake up and be like, oh, my back hasn't hurt in a month. Like, oh, I feel okay moving and squatting. And I'm going to choose to believe that, even though I can't see it at this time. And I'm going to find alternative ways of exercising and moving to support my body and my health, despite, this like chronic pain that I've been in. And so, we really have to be careful of the thoughts that we allow to dictate our actions in our life. And we have to be willing to challenge them, sometimes even when they feel like they're true. And this is like a really hard process. I mean, I did therapy for a year, which I feel like has really helped me work through some of this stuff as well. But yeah, and I want to also acknowledge that this process of challenging our thoughts is not an overnight process. Like this is going to take time. It might take weeks to challenge these thoughts that are coming up. This might take months. It might take years. But like I said earlier, awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. You can't change what you can't see. So we have to become aware of these thoughts that we're accepting as fact. And then we have to be willing to challenge them, even when it's incredibly painful in some cases. And so many of these thoughts are, maybe, people telling you when you're really young, like, you're just big boned. You're always going to be kind of chunky. You're, always going to deal with X, Y, Z. You're not going to be an athlete, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, we have to be willing to challenge those narratives, right? And we can go pretty deep on that. Moving on to step number 3 is we have to reframe, which is kind of what I referred to in my own story, and we have to choose a better thought. So this is truly, guys, where the magic happens. Once you've caught the thought and challenged it, we don't just stop there. We replace it with something more balanced, something more supportive, something more empowering, and something that's in line with the future that we want for ourselves. I called my course and this podcast Lifestyle School for a reason, Lifestyle School for Weight Loss, because so many times we think of weight loss as a phase, like we're going to do an 8-week weight loss course, or we're going to do a 12-week diet or cutting plan, or we're going to do a 30-day detox. But true health happens like over the course of our lifetime. And the only way that happens is if we truly get to the root of it all, which is in our lifestyle, right? And so we have to choose thoughts to fill in for these automatic thoughts that we've caught that are in line with like, where do I want to be in 10, 20, 30, 40 years? And are they in line with, where I'm headed, where I want to go? And so I thought like I blew it today, might as well start Monday, could be reframed as every choice is a fresh start. And I can reset with the very next meal, the very next time I eat. That would be much more in line with your long-term health goals, right? Or I'm too tired to exercise. Movement, the way you could reframe it is movement gives me energy. Even just 10 minutes of a walk outside will help, or even just 10 minutes in the gym will help. Or something like, I deserve this junk food. I deserve this treat, this cookie, these chips, or whatever. We could reframe that to, I deserve to feel really amazing tomorrow. So let me choose something that nourishes me. Or, sometimes like maybe it doesn't have to do with food. If it's like, I deserve XYZ treat to unwind after a hard day, maybe that looks like, I deserve to feel really good tomorrow. And I know what's going to make that happen is going to bed. Right? And that's something that I think many of us struggle with. And I want to just be clear. I'm not talking about like toxic positivity, just like pretending to be happy and to like say these good things and have these good thoughts. I'm really talking about like going in deep with yourself, not pretending everything is sunshine and rainbows. I'm talking about finding a thought that is both true and helpful, and that is going to keep you moving in the right direction. When you reframe consistently, you are literally rewiring your brain, your neural pathways. Neuroscience shows that the brain forms new neural pathways with every repeated thought. So over time, your default is going to change. And that, you guys, is incredibly powerful. And those things that right now feel impossible will eventually feel automatic. And I can tell you guys, when you find that switch has happened, everything in your health journey becomes so much easier. And when you're doing these healthy practices, having these healthy thoughts, healthy behaviors, on autopilot, that's when things get really fun because, it feels easy. And so that brings us to step number 4 in this cognitive behavioral therapy process of behavior change. Okay. This is like where we test things in real life. Now comes the practice. Thoughts are very powerful, but they're not enough on their own, right? You've got to take action and you have to test them. And so let's start with something like cravings. The old thought, I can't handle cravings. I can't handle my hunger. I always give up when I, maybe try to start a fast, or if I try to just like go the afternoon without any snacks and only eat at mealtime. A new thought, reframing that, could be cravings are like waves. And if I wait them out, they'll pass. Which is true. It's something we talk about in Lifestyle School. But next time a craving hits, instead of immediately eating, what you do is you take action. You set a timer for 10 minutes. You drink some water. You maybe go outside for a short walk, or you distract yourself. And then what happens, right? 9 out of 10 minutes pass and your cravings are gone. And guess what? You just proved your new thought is true, right? That you can handle cravings, that they're like waves, and if you wait them out, they're gonna pass, right? And that is truly how cognitive behavioral therapy moves from theory to transformation. Each new behavior strengthens the belief, which then reinforces the behavior, creating a positive cycle. So, an example of this in my own life, referring to my back issues, is I was holding on to this belief that like I can't really work out much because, or like get the same pump or endorphin hit, however you want to talk it. I'm a little bit of a gym girly, I guess you could say. Honestly, I hate that phrase, but um, I have found that, in my quest to find alternative ways to work out and to really, put my muscles under tension to hopefully get some muscle growth and hypertrophy, like I can actually get a good pump and like feel my muscles burning, and I can challenge myself in ways that aren't really aggravating to my back. Yes, it's quite limited at the moment, but it can happen. And so by doing that and taking that action, every time I get done with one of these workouts, and I mean, guys, I'm going to be honest, it hasn't been that long since I've been like, okay, I'm just like going to give myself to working out really hard in these ways of exercise that don't irritate my back. Like I'm going to stop pushing the boundaries of my back, and I'm just going to focus on the things that I know don't like make me hate my life because my back hurts so bad. And I feel so good and empowered after I do one of these workouts, and I never regret it. And I'm always like, wow, like it feels so good to work out hard. And so we gotta take action. So we reframe the thought, the negative thought, and then we have to take action, put it into work to prove these new thoughts as true, right? As much as we can. And so then that brings us to step number 5, which is skill building. Um, Cognitive behavioral therapy isn't just about stopping the negative thoughts, it's about building skills to navigate life differently, right? Because if you do things the way that you've always done them, you're going to have the results that you've always gotten. And so we have to expand our toolbox, we have to build new skills. And this is a big portion of also what we talk about in lifestyle school, because if you don't create any new tools, you're never going to have any different long-term results, right? So for example, learning how to tolerate discomfort instead of avoiding it is a really big one. So things like cravings, hunger, and even stress, maybe this is the stress of a cold, like a cold shower, of a hard workout. All of these are temporary. And practicing problem solving instead of saying, I can't exercise because I'm busy. You learn to ask, well, how can I fit in 15 minutes of exercise today? Building resilience, every time you choose the harder, healthier path, you strengthen your brain's muscles for doing it again. And I think this is really important because if you don't expand your toolbox, if you don't, look and evaluate your life and figure out, okay, how can I do things differently? I mean, essentially, I've had to figure out a whole different way of exercising. I mean, I'm quite versed in, exercises in the gym. Honestly, for me, it was more of like I just had to choose to do the exercises more that I didn't really want to do. Because I thought lesser of them, guys. I'm just going to be honest. I have to do more machine work. And I would prefer to do free weights or barbell work, but alas, here we are. But I have to expand my toolbox. And so it's like, you know what? This is a tool in my toolbox. I better start using it because I have to broaden the skills that I'm able to use. And this brings us to step number 6 when it comes to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is you have to address relapse prevention and plan for real life, because relapse is going to happen. Let's get real. You're not going to do this perfectly. absolutely no one does. There's going to be vacations, there's going to be holidays, there's going to be stress, there's going to be hormones, there's going to be late nights, and there's just going to be plain old like bad days where you wake up and you're like, I have no energy, I have no motivation. I just don't want to, honestly. And then I feel like I have dealt with that a lot this pregnancy, which honestly is just really hard. I was like, I need to do a podcast episode on like how to get your mood up and get your motivation back because I need this in my own life. So stay tuned for that one. It'll come eventually, but we're just going to have those bad days, right? And cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't pretend relapse won't happen, but it prepares you for it. So, if travel is a trigger because you're aware, right? You've like woken up to these thoughts and triggers in your life, you can plan ahead. And this is really important. It goes back to it's easier to stay out of trouble than get out of trouble if you listen to that podcast episode. Um, and what you could do is, think even if I'm out of my normal routine, I can keep my eating window. I can look for protein first meals. I just had a client not too long ago. We did 3 weeks of coaching together. She was in my 8 weeks personalized coaching program. We did 3 weeks of coaching together, and then she had essentially like 3 weeks of vacation back to back. She was out of town. And then she had people in town and, life was just crazy. She told me ahead of time, it's like, I'm going on this dream vacation. I don't want to restrict myself on my eating. And I was like, that's fine. Like, that's great. This is going to like be a great litmus test to learn about yourself and how you feel because she was feeling really great going into it. And I said, like, yeah, let's use this as a learning opportunity. I think this is great because I have zero expectations that my clients are going to, eat by the dietary guidelines I recommend for life because they're just like a starting place. And so this gal, she had lost 10 pounds in our first 3 weeks of working together. She goes on her 3 week vacation. She still tried to do like some of the really basic things like sleep, time restricted eating just at meal times, no snacking. Some days she did 3 meals, some days she did 2 meals, but she was so shocked to tell me when we met, 3 weeks later that she had maintained her weight loss, which I just think is such a testament to doing, these basic things, not throwing all caution to the wind, starting eating 24/7, all of that. We have like so much more control, I think, than sometimes we give ourselves credit for. And that would be like exactly what I would tell someone to do. If you have a trigger plan, don't restrict yourself, but figure out how you can do this in a realistic, manageable way that's, you're not going to lose weight on vacation. Who would ever like coach someone to try to lose weight on vacation? Unless like, I mean, that's something you really, really want to do, but it's just like not the time and the place. But staying in maintenance is a very viable thing if you're doing it right. And so, if stress leads you to sugar, typically, things like stress, like for me, I found when my daughter, who's now 4, when she was about 1.5, 2, she went through this like just really intense, clingy, cryy phase, like very emotional as a little toddler. And honestly, guys, I was about to lose my mind a little bit, and her crying was like a huge trigger for me. And the problem was that she was crying like all the time. But and I knew it led me to like binge eating, right? Like I just wanted to like eat food to numb myself. But I realized that, and then it's like, you got to create a plan. And so, if stress, is your trigger, whatever that stress looks like, put in a plan that I'm going to go for a 5-minute walk before I decide what I'm going to do next, before I decide to eat something, before I decide to break my fast or do whatever that looks like. Coming up with some strategies of like, what can I do differently? But also, I think a really important part of it too, especially with things like stress, is asking yourself like, what do I really need? Is it like, is food what I actually really need, or Do I need human connection? Do I need some time alone? That's a big one, especially for stay-at-home moms. Can I get an amen? We need some time to ourselves. Like we are humans and you can't just give, give, give all day, right? And so identifying the trigger and then coming up with an alternative strategy, but also tuning into like, what do I actually need to feel better in this moment? Because a lot of times, like, if stress leads to eating some sort of sugary treat, it might like give you a little bit of a dopamine hit and you feel good for like a moment, but usually you feel worse after, right? And so that's not like really doing us any good. So here's the most powerful part of cognitive behavioral therapy, I think. It doesn't just change your habits. Really, at the end of the day, if you're doing it right, it changes your identity. And we've talked about this on here before. But when you start catching and reframing your thoughts, you move from, I'm someone who can't control myself, to being someone who says, I'm someone who takes care of my body. I'm someone who is taking control of my health. Like I have agency here, right? And when you do that, your identity changes, your behaviors follow naturally. You don't have to force yourself anymore. It's not this death grip of willpower. You're not, on a diet. You're simply just living out who you are, what you want to be, right? What you want for your future day after day after day. And metabolically, this is what creates lasting health because you're not swinging between extremes. The other day, I was thinking of this analogy of like a metronome or a pendulum swinging back and forth from one side to the other. And, in our health, we don't want to be swinging from one extreme to the other, like extreme restriction to extreme, binging and not caring. We want to have like this tight little, there's going to be some swinging back and forth, but we want it to be like this, like within a small parameters of, we've got it dialed in is probably the best way to put it. And so as we go, into this weekend and next week, here is your challenge. I want you to notice an automatic thought that's been holding you back. I want you to catch it and I want you to write it down. Okay, maybe make it a note in your phone, maybe write it on a sheet of paper, a sticky note, put it on your bathroom mirror, maybe in your kitchen, and then ask yourself, is this true? And then is this helpful? And what's a better thought that I could practice instead? And I think this is just like a really great practical way to start is we just have to become aware, most of us. And then from there, start acting on it, right? Test it in real life and just watch how even one small shift changes how you feel, what you do, and ultimately how your body responds. And this is the work, that we do inside of Lifestyle School. We don't just, give you a meal plan or a fasting schedule. We help you rewrite the way that you think. Like that is my goal. I want you to leave my program thinking differently about food and about yourself. Your habits and your metabolism change. My goal is from the inside out. And if this episode resonated with you, I would be so honored if you'd share it with a friend who's stuck in the cycle of knowing what to do and not doing it. I think many, many, many people are stuck there. I have been stuck there because when we change the way that we think, we change the way we live at the end of the day. So with that, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to my podcast channel. Leave me a review, hopefully 5 stars. Say something nice. Comment on the episode. I'd love to hear one thing that stood out to you. That would just totally make my day. I don't get comments, honestly, on my podcast episodes very often. But when I do, I read them all. And honestly, they just like brighten my day. So if you want to be like a day changer for me as I'm lugging my way through this pregnancy, leave a comment on this episode. I would totally love that. Because life is too short to just not make someone's day who's like really pregnant, right? Okay, guys, I will leave you with that. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Lifestyle School podcast.